The Valorian Dominion had watched Earth for 50 years. Their scout ships hid behind the moon, recording everything. They watched humans build hospitals and schools, watched them create music and paint beautiful pictures. They watched nations that once fought terrible wars sit down at tables and talk instead of shoot. High Commander Zorath stood on his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, and studied the reports with growing excitement. His species had conquered 37 worlds across the galaxy. They had crushed civilizations far more advanced than these humans. But never had they found a target so perfect. "Tell me again," Zorath said to his intelligence officer, a thin creature named Velik. "When was their last major war?" "Over 90 standard years ago, Commander. They called it World War II. Since then, they have had small conflicts, but nothing significant. Their military budgets shrink every decade. They spend their resources on medicine and entertainment instead." Zorath clicked his mandibles together, a sign of deep satisfaction among his kind. His gray skin rippled with pleasure as he imagined the easy victory ahead. "They have grown soft," he declared, "like fruit left too long in the sun, sweet and ripe for the taking." The Valorian fleet consisted of 200 warships. Each one was the size of a small city, armed with plasma cannons and gravity bombs. They had technology that could crack planets open like eggs. Against them, Earth had a few satellites and some old missiles that still used chemical fuel. It would not even be a fight. It would be a harvest. Zorath gave the order to move, emerged from behind the moon, and positioned itself above Earth. Within minutes, every human on the planet could look up and see the massive ships blocking out the stars. Panic spread across the world. Television stations interrupted their programs to show the alien fleet. People ran through streets crying and screaming. Religious groups gathered to pray. Scientists frantically tried to make contact with the visitors, but the Valorians were not interested in talking. Not yet. In New York City, Secretary General Maria Santos sat in her office at the United Nations headquarters. She was a small woman with dark hair and calm brown eyes. She had spent 30 years as a diplomat, solving problems with words instead of weapons. She faced a problem that words alone could not solve. Her phone rang constantly. Presidents and prime ministers from every nation demanded answers she did not have. What did the aliens want? Could Earth fight them? Should they surrender immediately? Maria ignored most of the calls. She was waiting for one specific person. Finally, her assistant knocked on the door. "Admiral Hayes is on the secure line, Madam Secretary." Maria picked up the phone. "Kevin, please tell me we have options." Admiral Kevin Hayes was 73 years old. He had gray hair, gray eyes, and a face lined with decades of secrets. He commanded a division of the military that did not officially exist. Its budget was hidden in construction projects that were never built. Soldiers trained in facilities that appeared on no map. "We have options," Kevin said slowly. "But Maria, you need to understand what using them means. Once we show the galaxy what we really are, we cannot take it back." "I understand." The alien commander just sent his demands. "Complete surrender. All resources, all territory, all people. They want to make us slaves, Kevin." There was silence on the line. Then Kevin spoke again, his voice heavy with something. That might have been sadness, or might have been anticipation. "Then it is time to wake up the sleepers." Maria closed her eyes. She had hoped this day would never come. Every Secretary General since the program began had hoped the same thing. They had all prayed that Earth would never need its hidden weapons, its secret armies, its buried ships. But hope was not a strategy. Prayers did not stop invasions. "Do it," she said, 3 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains. In a bunker carved from solid granite, Admiral Hayes walked through corridors that had not seen daylight in decades.
Lights
Flickered on as he passed, automatic systems recognizing his presence. Lieutenant Commander Patricia Vance walked beside him. She was 45, with red hair pulled back tight, and the focused eyes of someone who took their job very seriously. She had served under Hayes for 15 years and had never once seen him afraid. He was not afraid now, but there was something new in his expression, something almost eager. "Patricia, activate protocol, Lazarus." She stopped walking. "Sir," That protocol has not been used since it was created. Systems might not even work anymore. They work. We test them every month, in secret, at night, when the satellites are not watching. Kevin smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We have been preparing for this day for over a century. The aliens think we forgot how to fight. They think peace made us weak. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Tricia nodded and pulled out a device that looked like an ordinary phone. She entered a code that only 12 people in the world knew. Across the planet, things began to happen. In the deep waters of the Pacific Ocean, lights flickered on inside massive shapes that had rested on the seafloor for generations. Engines that burned fuel unknown to civilian science began to warm up. Computer systems booted for the first time since they were installed. Beneath the sands of the Sahara Desert, doors opened that had been sealed since before anyone alive was born. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives without ever seeing real combat began to put on their armor. Inside mountains in every continent, facilities that appeared on no official record came alive. These were the Sleepers, humanity's secret guardians. They were the descendants of warriors who had made a promise long ago, a promise that Earth would never be truly defenseless, no matter how peaceful it appeared. Commander Zorath watched his displays with confusion. Strange energy readings were appearing all over the planet below. Heat signatures were emerging from places where his scans had showed nothing but empty ocean and barren rock. "What is happening?" he demanded. Velik studied the data, his thin fingers trembling. "I do not know, Commander. These readings do not match anything in our databases. It is almost like the planet itself is waking up." Zorath laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Planets do not wake up. It is probably just their primitive power systems overloading from fear. Send the ultimatum. They have one cycle to surrender, or we begin the cleansing." The message was transmitted to every screen on Earth. Zorath's face, gray and confident, appeared before billions of humans. "People of Earth, you have one day to surrender completely. Lay down your weapons, turn over your leaders, accept your new place in the Valorian Dominion. Refuse, and we will burn your cities to ash. The choice is yours." The screens went dark. In the bunker beneath the mountains, Admiral Hayes watched the message with his arms crossed. When it ended, he turned to Patricia. "Contact every hidden base. Tell them to prepare for full activation." He paused, looking up, as if he could see through miles of rock to the ships above. "These aliens wanted to meet humanity. Let us introduce ourselves properly." The countdown to war had begun, and humanity was ready for it. The deadline passed without a human response. No surrender. No negotiation. Just silence from the blue planet below. Commander Zorath found this amusing. He had seen this behavior before on other worlds. The prey species often froze when faced with true predators. They became so afraid that they could not even speak. "They are paralyzed with fear," he announced to his officers. "Begin landing operations. Target their largest cities first. Once they see their capitals burning, they will beg us to accept their surrender." 50 dropships detached from the fleet and began their descent toward Earth. Each dropship carried 200 Valorian soldiers armed with plasma rifles and gravity grenades. They were veterans of dozens of planetary conquests. They had never lost a battle. The first group headed for Washington, D.C., the capital of the nation called America. Their scans showed a city of monuments and government buildings, an easy target, symbolic victory. They were 40 miles from the coast when the ocean below them began to move. Pilot First Class Kravix was the first to notice. "Commander, I am seeing strange water displacement below us. It almost looks like something is rising from the depth." His commander laughed. "What could possibly rise from their primitive ocean? A fish? Keep flying." But the readings grew more intense. Water churned and foamed. Waves spread outward in massive circles. And then something broke the surface. The S. Hercules was 2 miles long. Its hull was black as space, designed to absorb rather than reflect light. It had rested on the floor of the Chesapeake Bay for 97 years. Maintained by automated systems and skeleton. Crews who lived their entire lives underwater. Now it rose into the air on engines that burned fuel the galaxy had never seen. Water cascaded off its hull like a waterfall. Weapon ports opened along its sides, revealing plasma cannons that made the Valorian versions look like toys. Captain Daniel Morrison stood on the bridge, watching his crew work their stations with calm efficiency. These were the sleepers, soldiers raised from birth to serve on ships that most humans did not know existed. They trained in simulators that perfectly replicated alien combat. They studied every species the scouts had identified. They waited their entire lives for this moment. And now the moment had arrived. Weapons officer, target the lead dropship. Daniel ordered Lieutenant Rosa Martinez, a woman with steady hands instead. Ear nerves, locked on to the closest Valorian vessel. Target acquired, Captain. Waiting for your command.
Oh.
Daniel looked at the screen showing the alien dropships. They had not changed course. They probably could not believe what they were seeing. These aliens came here thinking we forgot how to fight, Daniel said quietly. They looked at our museums and our concert halls and our peaceful streets, and they saw weakness. Let us remind them why we chose peace instead of having it forced upon us. He nodded to Rosa. Fire. The Hercules fired a single shot. It crossed the distance between the ship and the lead dropship in less than a second. The Valorian vessel did not explode. It simply ceased to exist. It was converted from solid matter into expanding gas by the focused beam of plasma. The other dropships scattered in sudden panic. Their pilots screamed into their communicators, demanding to know what had just happened. Their sensors could not make sense of the readings. A ship had appeared from nowhere and destroyed their leader with a single shot. And then more ships appeared. From the Pacific Ocean, the ESS Titan rose near the Hawaiian Islands. From the Atlantic, the ESS Guardian emerged off the coast of Portugal. The ESS Defender surfaced in the Indian Ocean. The ESS Protector climbed out of the Mediterranean Sea. 17 warships in total, rising from hiding places across the planet. Each one was a match for any vessel in the Valorian fleet. Together, they represented a military force that the galaxy had never imagined possible, aboard the Eternal Conquest. Commander Zoroth gripped the arms of his command chair so hard that his claws left marks in the metal.
Ow.
Where did those ships come from? He screamed. Our scans showed nothing. Nothing. Velik's voice trembled as he answered. The ships appear to use some form of stealth technology we have never encountered. They were completely invisible to our sensors until they activated their engines. That is impossible. We have the most advanced scanning technology in the known galaxy. Apparently not, Commander. Zoroth watched in horror as his dropships were destroyed one by one. The human ships moved with terrifying coordination, each one knowing exactly where the others would be. They cut through the Valorian formations like predators through a herd of helpless animals. In less than 10 minutes, all 50 dropships were gone. 200 soldiers each, times 50 ships. 10,000 Valorian warriors, the best of their military. Reduced to debris falling into the ocean, and the human fleet had not taken a single hit. Captain. Daniel Morrison watched the last dropship fall and felt nothing but grim satisfaction. He had trained for this his entire life. His father had trained for it, and his grandfather before that. Generations of his family had lived in secret, preparing for the day when Earth would need its hidden defenders. Captain, we are receiving a transmission from Admiral Hayes, his communications officer reported. Daniel nodded. Put him through. Admiral Kevin Hayes appeared on the main screen. He looked tired, but determined. Good work, Captain. You and the other fleet commanders have shown them that we are not helpless. But this was just the first move. The Valorians still have 200 warships in orbit. They will not retreat from this defeat. They will be angry, and angry enemies make mistakes. What are your orders, Admiral? Hold your positions and wait for my signal. I am about to send them a message. Let us see if they are smart enough to listen. The transmission ended. Daniel turned to his crew. You heard the Admiral? Maintain defensive positions. Reload all weapons. And remember what we fight for. Not conquest. Not glory. We fight so that our children can keep building hospitals instead of battleships. We fight so that humanity can continue to choose peace instead of being forced into it. Around the globe, the 17 ships of Earth's hidden fleet held their positions. Their crews waited in silence, watching the alien armada above them. The Valorians had expected easy prey. They had found something very different, and the lesson was only beginning. In orbit, Commander Zorath stared at the wreckage of his landing force. His confidence had turned to something he had not felt in decades. Something that took him a moment to recognize because it was so unfamiliar. Fear. These humans had hidden an entire fleet from his sensors. They had destroyed his dropships with almost casual ease. They had technology that matched or exceeded his own. Everything he thought he knew about Earth was wrong, and now he would have to face the consequences of that mistake. Admiral Kevin Hayes sat in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Screens covered every wall, showing the positions of both fleets. The 17 ships of Earth floated in the atmosphere, waiting. The 200 ships of the Valorian Dominion hung in orbit, uncertain. It was time to talk. "Open a channel to all frequencies," Kevin told his communications officer. "I want every human and every alien to hear this." The officer nodded. "Channel open, Admiral." "You are alive." Kevin took a deep breath. He was about to reveal secrets that humans had kept for over a century. Secrets that most people had never imagined. After today, nothing would ever be the same. "This message is for the Valorian Dominion," he began. His voice was calm, almost gentle, like a teacher explaining a simple lesson. "You came to our world expecting to find easy victims. You looked at our art, our music, our peaceful cities, and you saw weakness. You were wrong. Let me explain why." In orbit, Commander Zorath listened with growing unease. His officers stood frozen at their stations, afraid to move or speak. "You observed our planet for 50 years, Kevin continued, but you only looked at the surface. You saw what we wanted the galaxy to see. A species that had turned away from war. A civilization that preferred diplomacy to destruction. And all of that is true. We did choose peace, but you failed to ask the most important question. Why did we make that choice?" Kevin paused, letting the silence stretch. "Let me tell you about humanity, Commander. We are the species that split the atom. Do you understand what that means? We discovered how to break apart the very building blocks of matter and release the energy inside. And what did we do with this discovery? We built bombs. We built bombs powerful enough to destroy entire cities in a single flash. We built thousands of these bombs and pointed them at each other." Zorath felt a cold sensation spreading through his body. His species had nuclear technology, but they had developed it slowly, carefully, over millennia. The idea of building weapons from it immediately was unthinkable. "We called it mutually assured destruction," Kevin said. "If one nation attacked, the other would respond. Both would be destroyed. Everyone knew this, and yet we kept building more bombs, more missiles, more ways to end our own existence. We came within minutes of ending all life on our planet." Multiple times, the Admiral leaned forward, his gray eyes intense. "You think you understand war, Commander? Let me tell you about human wars. We fought in trenches filled with mud and blood and poison gas. Men lived like animals in holes in the ground, watching their friends die from chemicals that melted their lungs. And they kept fighting. We burned entire cities with fire from the sky. Women, children, old people, all turned to ash. And we kept fighting. We invented ways to kill that were so horrible, we had to create laws forbidding their use. And then we broke those laws anyway. Across Earth, billions of people listened to their admirals speak. Many were crying. Many were afraid. But many others felt something different. A strange pride in the darkness their species had overcome. "We did not become peaceful because we forgot how to be violent," Kevin continued. "We became peaceful because we mastered violence so completely that we terrified ourselves. Every human child learns about the camps where we imprisoned and murdered millions of innocent people. Every human child learns about the bombs we dropped on cities full of families. We teach our children these horrors so they understand what we are capable of, so they choose differently." Zorath wanted to turn off the transmission. He wanted to pretend he had never heard these words. but he could not move. You came here thinking humanity was soft. You thought a century of peace had made us forget our nature. Commander, we have not forgotten anything. We have simply been choosing not to use it. Every day, every human makes the choice to build instead of destroy, to heal instead of hurt, to love instead of hate. It is the hardest choice our species has ever made, and we make it constantly because we know what happens when we stop. Kevin stood up from his chair. The ships you saw rise from our oceans are not new. We built them generations ago, during our last great war. When that war ended, we did not destroy them. We hid them. We maintained them. We trained crews in secret, passing down the knowledge from parents to children, because we knew that someday someone would look at our peaceful world and see an easy target. He walked toward the camera, his face filling screens across the civilizations. Here is what you need to understand, Commander. We did not build these weapons to conquer. We built them to protect. We built them so that our children could keep making art and music and love instead of war. We built them hoping we would never have to use them. You have forced our hand. Congratulations. The Admiral's voice hardened. You have 1 hour to withdraw your fleet from our system. Take your survivors and go. Tell every species in the galaxy what you learned here today. Tell them that Earth is not to be touched. Tell them that we chose peace, but we never lost the ability to choose. Otherwise, and tell them that if anyone makes the mistake you made, they will receive the same lesson. Kevin looked directly into the camera, his eyes cold as winter. We are humanity. We are the species that looked into the abyss of our own destruction and stepped back from the edge. Not because we were pushed, because we chose to. We are capable of horrors you cannot imagine. And we are capable of wonders that would make you weep with joy. The question, Commander, is which version of us do you want to meet? The choice is yours. But I promise you this, if you choose wrong, you will not live to regret it. The transmission ended. In orbit, Commander Zorath sat motionless for a long time. Around him, his officers waited in terrified silence. The bridge of the eternal conquest, which had seen 37 worlds conquered, felt suddenly small and fragile. Finally, Valak spoke. Commander, what are your orders? Zorath looked at the planet below. Beautiful blue oceans. Green continents. White clouds drifting peacefully across the surface. It looked so gentle. So harmless, and somewhere beneath those oceans, ships waited. Ships that could destroy his entire fleet. Ships that were older than the current generation of humans, and still more powerful than anything his civilization had built. He thought about his own children, waiting at home for news of his victory. He thought about the Valorian cities that would burn if this war continued. He thought about everything he had just heard. Prepare for full engagement, he said quietly. We retreat for no one. It was the wrong choice. And humanity would make sure he understood that Commander Zorath had made his decision. The Valorian fleet would not retreat. They would attack with everything they had, destroy the human ships, and conquer Earth as planned. No primitive species would humiliate the Dominion. All ships, assume attack formation, Zorath commanded. Target the largest human vessel first. Concentrate all firepower. We destroy them one at a time. 200 Valorian warships began to move. Their engines glowed bright blue as they descended from orbit toward the atmosphere. Plasma cannons charged. Missile bays opened. The full might of the Dominion prepared to crush the humans once and for all. Aboard the ESS Hercules, Captain Daniel Morrison watched the enemy fleet approaching. His sensors showed him exactly what he was facing. 200 ships against 17. Thousands of plasma cannons against his fleet's weapons. By normal math, humanity should lose, but this was not normal math. Admiral Hayes is on the line, his communications officer announced. Daniel accepted the call. The Admiral's face appeared on screen, calm as always. They refuse to leave, Kevin said simply. I expected as much. Their pride will not let them retreat from what they see as a lesser species. What are your orders, sir? Execute Program Shakespeare. Daniel nodded slowly. Program Shakespeare was named after an old human writer who understood one thing very well. The most dangerous enemy was the one who appeared weak, the one you underestimated, the one who let you think you were winning until it was too late. All ships, this is Captain Morrison. Execute Program Shakespeare. Make them chase us. The 17 human vessels suddenly scattered in different directions. They fled from the approaching Valorian fleet, seemingly in panic. Their movements looked random, chaotic, like prey animals running from predators. Commander Zoroth smiled when he saw this. They are running. Chase them down. Destroy them one by one? His officers obeyed eagerly. The Valorian formation broke apart as individual ships pursued individual targets. They were faster than the human vessels, or at least they thought they were. The humans seemed to be barely staying ahead, always just out of weapons range. It was exactly what the humans wanted. On the dark side of the moon, in a crater that never saw sunlight, 3 massive structures powered up. They were called the Hammers. Each one was a platform the size of a small city. It's built during the darkest days of human history and launched into space in secret. For almost a century, they had floated silently in the eternal darkness, waiting. Colonel Victor Reyes commanded the lead platform, designated Hammer 1. He was a quiet man with dark skin and darker eyes. His family had served on the Hammers for 4 generations. They had trained for combat they prayed would never happen. That prayer had not been answered. Hammer 2 and 3 report status, Victor ordered. Hammer 2 is fully operational, came the response. All systems green. Hammer 3 ready for action. Weapons charged and waiting. Victor looked at his tactical display. The Valorian fleet had scattered across a wide area, chasing the seemingly fleeing human ships. They had broken their formation completely. They had no idea what was coming. Admiral Hayes, the enemy is in position, Victor reported. Acknowledged, Colonel. The Admiral's voice was heavy with something that sounded like regret. You are authorized to fire. Victor closed his eyes for a moment. What he was about to do would kill thousands of living beings. They were enemies who had come to enslave his people, but they were still alive. They still had families waiting for them. They still had hopes and dreams, but they had chosen this. Humanity had given them a chance to leave. They had refused. God forgive us, Victor said quietly. Then he opened his eyes. All hammers, fire. The hammers used technology that human scientists had developed in secret over many decades. They combined plasma energy with antimatter in a way that produced beams of pure destruction. Nothing could withstand them. Nothing could block them. When a hammer fired, whatever it hit simply stopped existing. 3 beams of blinding light shot from the moon toward Earth. They traveled at nearly the speed of light, crossing the distance in just over a second. The Valorian ships had no time to react, no time to run, no time to do anything but die. The beams struck the scattered fleet with surgical precision. Each beam hit multiple targets, cutting through ship after ship like a knife through paper. Explosions filled the sky above Earth. Debris rained down into the atmosphere, burning up in bright streaks of fire. Commander Zoroth watched in horror as half his fleet was destroyed in a single moment. Ships that had conquered worlds simply vanished. Officers he had served with for decades were there 1 second and gone the next. What is happening? He screamed. Where did that come from? His sensors finally located the source. 3 objects on the dark side of the moon, objects his scans had somehow missed. They were already firing again. Evasive maneuvers. Zoroth commanded. All ships, return to formation. Raise shields to maximum. But it was too late. The human ships had stopped running. They were turning around, their weapons charging. The scattered Valorian fleet was now caught between the hammers above and the human fleet below. Captain Daniel Morrison gave the order. All ships, engage. Show no mercy. The S. Hercules fired its main cannon. The ESS Titan launched a wave of guided missiles. The S. Guardian opened up with a barrage of plasma bolts. All across the battlefield, the 17 human ships attacked with the fury of a species that had been pretending to be harmless for far too long. The Valorians fought back. Well, but they were outmatched. Their shields, which had blocked every weapon they had ever faced, barely slowed down the human attacks. their plasma cannons, which had burned through the hulls of countless enemy ships, did little damage to the human armor. Aboard the Eternal Conquest, Zorath watched his fleet die around him. Ship after ship exploded. Distress calls filled the communication channels. Officers begged for orders for rescue, for something that could save them. But there was nothing he could do.
A
beam from the Hercules struck the Eternal Conquest's engines. The ship shuddered and began to spin. Another hit disabled the weapons. A third opened a hole in the hull that vented atmosphere into space. Zorath pulled himself into an escape pod as his flagship came apart around him. Through the small window, he could see the battle ending. Only a handful of Valorian ships remained. They were trying to run, to escape into hyperspace, to carry news of this disaster back to the Dominion. A few of them made it. Most did not. The battle lasted less than 30 minutes. When it was over, the mighty Valorian fleet was reduced to scattered debris and a few fleeing survivors. Earth's hidden navy floated victorious above a planet that had not lost a single city. In the bunker beneath the mountains, Admiral Kevin Hayes received the reports. Total enemy casualties over 90%. Human casualties minimal. The invasion had been stopped. He should have felt victorious. Instead, he felt tired. Thousands of beings had died today because their commander was too proud to retreat. Because the galaxy did not understand what humanity really was. Now they would understand. The survivors would spread the word. Every species in the galaxy would hear about what happened to the Valorians. When they tried to conquer Earth, Kevin hoped that would be enough. He hoped no one else would need to learn the lesson firsthand, but if they did, humanity would be ready to teach them. 6 months passed after the battle above Earth. The debris had been cleaned from orbit. The hidden fleet had returned to its secret resting places beneath the oceans and mountains. On the surface, life continued much as it had before. Children went to school. Artists painted their paintings. Musicians played their songs, but everything had changed. The surviving Valorian ships had carried their terrible news across the galaxy. Every species heard the story. A simple world called Earth had destroyed the mightiest fleet in the Valorian Dominion. A species that everyone thought was peaceful had revealed weapons beyond anything known to exist. Now, the Galactic Council wanted to meet these humans. Secretary General Maria Santos stood in the great assembly hall on the neutral space station that served as the Council's headquarters. Around her, representatives from over 200 species watched with expressions. Ranging from curiosity to fear to naked terror, Maria was not alone. Admiral Kevin Hayes stood beside her, wearing his formal uniform for the first time in decades. Captain Daniel Morrison was there, along with Colonel Victor Reyes and the other commanders of Earth's hidden forces. Lieutenant Commander Patricia Vance stood at attention, representing the soldiers who had worked in secret for generations. And behind them, visible through the massive windows of the assembly hall, floated the Hercules, a reminder to everyone present of what humanity could do if pushed. The council chairman, an ancient being from a species that had watched civilizations rise and fall for millennia, spoke first. Humans of Earth, you have requested membership in the Galactic Council. Before we consider this request, we must understand what happened with the Valorian Dominion. We must understand what you are. Maria stepped forward. Her voice was clear and steady. Chairman, members of the Council, I understand your concerns. You have heard stories about our victory. You have seen recordings of our weapons in action. You are wondering if we are a threat to the galaxy. Let me answer that question directly. She paused, looking around the assembly. Yes, we are dangerous. We have never pretended otherwise. Our species has a long history of violence. We have fought wars that killed millions of our own people. We have built weapons capable of destroying our entire planet. We have committed acts of cruelty that still haunt us centuries later. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Several species looked ready to flee. But, Maria continued, we have also built hospitals that heal the sick regardless of who they are. We have created art that moves beings to tears across cultural boundaries. We have developed philosophies of peace and compassion that transformed our civilization. We are not simple creatures. We are not just warriors or just artists. We are both. We are everything. Admiral Hayes stepped forward to stand beside her. The Valorians made a mistake that many species have made when they look at Earth. They saw our peaceful surface and assumed it was all there was. They did not understand that our peace is a choice we make every day, a difficult choice, a deliberate choice. We did not forget how to make war. We chose to stop. There is a difference. But you did not stop, one council member called out. You built those ships in secret. You maintained them. You trained soldiers. That does not sound like a species that chose peace. We chose peace, Kevin replied, not stupidity. We knew that the galaxy contained species like the Valorians, species that would see a peaceful world and see only an easy target. We hoped we would never encounter them. We prepared in case we did. Our preparation saved our planet. I do not apologize for that. Maria took back control of the conversation. Let me tell you what humanity wants. We want to join the galactic community as partners and friends. We want to share our art, our music, our stories, our ideas. We want to learn from your civilizations and contribute to a greater whole. We want to trade, to explore, to grow together. We want peace. She let that sink in. But, she added, her voice hardening, we will not accept conquest. We will not accept slavery. We will not stand by while any species threatens our home or our children. The Valorians thought our peace was weakness. They learned otherwise. Anyone else who makes that mistake will receive the same lesson. The assembly was silent. Maria smiled, and somehow that smile was more frightening than any threat could have been. Humanity is extending an open hand to the galaxy. We hope you will take it in friendship. But remember, that same hand can close into a fist. The choice of which one you see is entirely yours. The vote was held that same day. Every species voted in favor of humanity's membership. There were no objections, no debates, no delays. Trade agreements followed within the month. Human art began appearing in galleries across the galaxy. Human music played in concert halls on 1,000 worlds. Human diplomats sat in council chambers, offering perspectives shaped by their unique history, and human warships remained hidden beneath Earth's oceans, maintained by new generations of sleepers, ready if they were ever needed again. Years turned into decades. Decades turned into centuries. The galaxy changed in countless ways, but one thing remained constant. No species ever attacked Earth. No fleet ever approached the blue planet with hostile intent. The lesson of the Valorians had been learned too well. Parents told their children. The story of the peaceful world that was not so peaceful after all. Teachers taught students about the species that chose gentleness but never lost its claws. Historians debated exactly how humanity had hidden such advanced technology from galactic sensors. And sometimes, in the quiet moments between stars, beings would wonder about the other lessons humanity might still be hiding. The weapons that had not been revealed, the capabilities that remained secret, the depths that no one had yet seen. They usually decided not to find out. Admiral Kevin Hayes died peacefully in his sleep at the age of 107. His grave overlooked the ocean, the same ocean where the Hercules still rested in darkness waiting. Captain Daniel Morrison retired to teach at a military academy that officially did not exist. Secretary General Maria Santos wrote her memoirs, carefully edited to omit the things that still needed to stay secret, but their legacy lived on, somewhere on Earth. Children played in parks without fear. Artists created works of stunning beauty. Scientists pushed the boundaries of knowledge. Lovers walked hand in hand under stars that belonged to a galaxy at peace, and in the darkness beneath the waves. The hidden fleet slept on, because humanity had learned something important long ago. Peace was precious. Peace was worth protecting. But the best way to protect peace was to make absolutely certain that everyone understood the alternative. They had thought Earth was peaceful. They had been wrong. But the lesson they learned had saved more lives than all the battles in galactic history. Peace through strength, compassion backed by power, the gentle hand that could become a fist. That was humanity's gift to the stars. and the stars had learned to be grateful for it.